Hello, welcome to the Wait Here Please podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sophia.
I'm Mariah, and I'm excited to be back here today.
Woo! Episode 2.
We're live.
We are officially live. That's so wild.
It is.
That's crazy. We are filming on a Friday, January 17th, and our goal, well, at least my goal, is to have this edited for Fridays and upload them at 7 a.m. for our commuters and our early risers. Okay, well, not for the parents, but like early risers just in general.
Yeah, the 7 a.m. early risers because I think the girls had me up at 5 a.m. this morning for unknown reasons. So that is early risers to me.
That's fair. That's fair. 7 a.m. is the goal. If I should change it or make it earlier, let us know. That'd be awesome. But overall, that's like our goal is to have them on Fridays just because it's the last day of your average weekday. I want to acknowledge that people do work on the weekends. So like the weekends are times where people work. So like, but for your average quote unquote 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, that's our goal.
Yes. And I think, that's a good time. And it gives you time to edit, gives us time to review it, and then put it out on all the sources. So we're on Spotify, we are on Instagram.
Yes. We're on YouTube. Okay. By the time this one comes out, I'm hoping that I have already figured out how to upload to Apple Music. I'm trying to figure out because the directions on Google have not been helpful. So bear with me on that one. Hopefully it's out on Apple, but that's the plan.
Yeah. And as we learned from my issues with my Apple computer and being outdated from Catalina, Apple doesn't make things easy. So we're just going with it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I wish there was just like a boop, boop, but it's fine. One step at a time.
Exactly.
Oh, today's episode is kind of just going to be a little bit more serious because something big is happening on Monday. And by the time you hear this or see this on Friday, we're going to have a new president.
Yes, we will.
One thing Mariah and I thought would be kind of a fun thing is to something that we both do in therapy, and that's a rose and a thorn. So a rose is like a positive thing that happened this week, and a thorn is a negative thing that's happened this week. And even though we're looking ahead, I can say for both of us, right? Our thorn is Monday when Trump is going to be president.
It's not even just the concern, right, with what all this is going to mean for a lot of the population, women, minorities, anything like that. It's, all week we've been talking about it. And at least my therapy sessions is the fear of what's going to happen, people preparing, and kind of just the worries that come up and how we are going to overcome them, what we can do within our area of control of how we can continue to take care of ourselves in this time with all the unknowns. You're seeing states and governors trying to implement changes already, but there's already disrespect for the flag of President Carter's death, and the flag's supposed to be a half-mast for 30 days after his death. And I know the governor of South Carolina, the state I'm in, is having us raise our flags for Inauguration Day, which is, again, disrespectful to President Carter's death. All these things are changing, and this is just what we have to prepare for the next 2 years.
That's kind of like our thorn. And we'll kind of get more into it later on about how we're feeling. But that's like the big one, I can say.
And also, as parents prepare for tax season, getting those tax returns ready and seeing how much did you spend in childcare this year or this past year. That was a thorn for me because I'm like, oof, That's almost my mortgage payments for the year.
In America, we have privatized child care.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel like every week, in my opinion, it sounds like it gets higher and higher.
It's
I don't know. I think it's just wild how expensive childcare is. I mean, over 50% of your population is women, and over 50% of the population can't stay home with kids if they choose to have children or if they can have children. So you're saying that we're paying so much money, and like over $2,000 a month,
Mhm.
and that's being generous.
That's yeah, on the lower end for 2 kids at least, yeah.
Yeah. And that you have to pay that every month. And then on top of that, with like the inflation rates, with groceries, with housing and everything. So it's very frustrating, I can imagine, as a mom to have to quote unquote budget in a sense, not only childcare, but then also the rest of the funds that you have to put into your children. Like if they're not feeling well, or if they have to get new clothes, or if you have to get gifts for their teachers.
And then, like you said, if they get sick, you miss work, then you're not getting that money, but you still have to pay for childcare because you can't not pay that week just because they're not there kind of situation. So it definitely is a struggle. And I couldn't imagine being in places like California. We talk about South Carolina where Asheville and Greenville after Hurricane Helene, where there's potentially having to pay for childcare to support them rebuilding without having a home or even a building to go back to kind of situation.
Wait, you had like people had to pay for daycare even though they're not sending their kids to daycare in South Carolina?
So, for example, there was a fire at one of the daycares close by, and until they got referred to another daycare, they were still paying because you have to support the teachers. If during one of the hurricanes, also like when our daycare lost power, we were still paying, even though nobody was going there. We still had to pay because we're still contracted to do that.
That's wild. I didn't know that.
Yes.
And like, this is why I think like it's really important that we have two different perspectives, because I think like these are the things like you don't hear about. I mean, personally, I don't think I've ever heard like a news story on this, and I could be wrong, but I don't think this is something, especially with the wildfires or with the hurricanes, that is being talked about how you have to pay for childcare, even though your child may have lost their daycare or you're not sending them because you are currently unable to for whatever reason. I mean, I get it. I do. I understand because it's not like public schools, and I understand like you have to support and help fund the school and help give the teachers paychecks, but I just think like if it's not being utilized, like it really sucks.
Yeah. And it reserves your space too, because we went through it with my oldest daughter. She could have been in daycare or we could have reserved her spot when she was 5 weeks old, but they didn't give us that opportunity because kids can't start daycare until they're about 6 weeks. And I wasn't ready to get off maternity leave at that point. So it was, oh, if you want to start paying now until you're ready for her to come, we can reserve your spot. But if you're not going to pay, we have to skip over you and you go back to like another line until you're ready.
Yeah, that's another thing. When you told me, I was shocked.
Yes.
I know that childcare, when I was doing in-home therapy, I learned that you have to reserve spots. And I don't know, like I understand it's privatized. Like I understand that. And I understand like with private schools, like it's kind of the same thing. Some colleges, I can imagine it's similar. But because it's a daycare, for whatever reason, in my head, it just seems wild that you have to reserve a spot and you have to pay until whenever you're ready. And it could be like months till you're ready, but you have to pay to reserve a spot.
Yeah. And we have friends here that have started paying for their children to go to pre-K and kindergarten in the school they want to do, and they just have their kids. It's reserving their spot for when the child's old enough. So they're, yeah, yes.
So they literally just had their child
Mm-hmm.
and they're paying already
Yes.
because they want a specific school,
Yes.
understandably so, for their child.
Yes. It's
The
a
daycare.
privatized school. It's in like a public school or Head Start or 4K program. It's a program through their church, which we can get into on another day.
I have a lot of feelings about
We
that one.
we both have feelings about churches just because I feel, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong, I have issues with churches because of the stuff I hear with clients, with the past, the stuff we hear about on news, own personal experiences. I am a believer. I believe that there is a higher power, but churches freak me out at times too.
That's fair. I have a lot of feelings on religion. I think for me, though, personally, what blows my mind is that this is a church daycare that is like, it's not like a privatized school, like not run by a church. It's run by the church. I don't understand. Like, churches don't fill up that quickly
Here they
unless,
do.
like,
I'm in the Bible.
I forget that.
Yes,
And
yes.
wait, like,
Welcome to the
like,
South.
how, like, they fill up, like, really quickly?
Oh, yeah.
Is there, like, a max amount at churches? For example, the church daycare, there's a max amount I can imagine, even though it could potentially afford taking care of all of the children that go to the church because
I,
they have the funds.
I feel like, and obviously I don't know, most daycares or programs have a maximum of kids they can take per teacher.
Right.
Like
Yes.
for my youngest age, it's either 4 or 5 kids per teacher, and that is one and under. As they get
Mhm.
older, I know my 2-year-old now, it's an 8 or 1 and 9 per teacher.
Mhm.
And they obviously have more teachers in the classroom, but
Right.
yeah, you can only take care of a certain amount if you have a certain amount of teachers.
That's just insane to me.
And I would hope that applies to churches and religious childcare centers as well, whether it's a school or daycare. I would hope, because that would just be insane.
Well, that's the thing, like, most churches I can imagine, because when I visited Georgia, these super churches are huge
Mhm.
and they're nice
They are.
when all the buildings surrounding need significant construction. So that's why it blows my mind specifically for church daycares,
Hmm.
because I feel like they should have the funds. I
Hmm.
mean, they give money during services when they pass the bucket or the bowl or whatever
Hmm.
down the lines. People donate thousands, sometimes over $1 million to
Yes.
churches. So that's why it's mind-boggling that you have to reserve a spot. And I don't know, maybe it's just like, should we have tuition or scholarships or a fund specifically for children who want to go to this specific daycare
Hmm.
but are too young to go?
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah, we can definitely go off on a tangent with that talk because just from all the stuff we've seen, experienced, we both have opinions on the matter.
Right. So that's
Yeah.
why I don't know. I just think it's wild that you have to, in not just with church daycares, but just in general, that you have to reserve a spot
Yeah.
when the child is not in there. And then when there is a natural disaster. So, like, for example, with the California fires, people don't have jobs. Everything is burned down. There's still fires happening currently. I
Hmm.
don't even know if they are even close to 20% contained. But the fires are 20%. I don't know. I know for a fact they're not 50% contained.
No.
So you're saying that you have to pay for childcare when you don't even have a job, and I don't know how FEMA works. I'm not really familiar, but what I do know is that currently Republicans like Speaker Johnson came out saying that he's willing to withhold funds for natural disasters in California. And I'm sorry, that's just inhumane.
Yeah. And I agree. Obviously, going back to the childcare thing, I don't know what it's like over there or what it will look like for them. But the fact that they're even talking about withholding funds, that they're making these kind of open-ended threats is inhumane. Like, why aren't we taking care of our people?
Yeah, like just in case everyone wants to know, like when you become president, that means you become president of the entire country.
Okay.
Doesn't matter who you voted for. I've been watching like the testimonies of
Hmm.
who is gonna become defense secretary and everything. And a lot of the things that I keep hearing is like, oh, 78% of America voted for Trump. That's not true. 78 million people voted for Trump, but that's not 78%. So I do want to emphasize that because a lot of people did not vote in this election, which is very frustrating because, I mean, did we not learn last time? I mean, obviously not. But it's just like we live in America, like everyone has the right to vote except felons and people who are incarcerated, which I personally have issues with. I think personally, like everyone should have the right to vote.
And
Um,
it's only certain felons and it's only certain, incarcerated
I
people
thought it
there.
was all felons.
No, I thought it was, and maybe I'm misinformed. I thought it was only Google that. It was only certain felons that can't vote,
That's
which
fun considering who's your
I was
president.
about to say, some of these felons can't vote, but what did we just elect into?
So, according to like Google, it is common practice in the United States to make felons ineligible to vote, in some cases permanently. But over a few decades, it's a state by state policy
Okay.
choice.
Yeah.
Which at the same time, like, how is that fair if like one state allows felons to vote and then another state doesn't? Obviously, that's gonna, I can imagine it's gonna affect, especially southern states. I mean, let's be real. Like, it's gonna affect the primaries. I don't know. I just think that's insane. So I just also want to emphasize, like, it's 78 million people that voted for
Mm-hmm.
Trump, not 78% of
80%.
Americans. And to withhold funds or threaten to withhold funds during this crisis is appalling. And I mean, you can speak on this. Like, what are people doing there now? Like, after Hurricane Helene, like, are people still recovering?
And I can't speak for that area of the Carolinas because I'm on the eastern side and that's the western side. I know that when it happened, so like our community, even though we're on the East Coast, we got together. Restaurants were doing drives, people were donating clothes. I went through my kids' closets to like, all right, like this isn't that sentimental. Let me donate it because
Uh-huh.
it was getting into the colder months. And,
Right.
Western Carolina gets snow at times. It gets colder. So I was donating clothes and there were churches and, like I said, restaurants and other community resources that were bringing propane and
Uh-huh.
space heaters and stuff like that. So I'm hoping it's the same for California. I'm seeing drives being posted about feminine hygiene products being needed, clothes, all of that. A big one is formula
Right.
that is needed right now. And I think even though the Carolinas have started to rebuild, they're rebuilding their roads, even if it is temporary. But a lot of the community areas there are up and running again because that's
Uh-huh.
what brings in the tourism. That's what brings in the money for them. They have to get up and running.
Right. Especially because the summer is
Yeah.
coming. And I will put in the description places where you can donate feminine hygiene products, places where you can donate kids' toys. I don't know how you can donate formula, but I can look into that.
I'm sure
Um,
there's like an Amazon list or something that you could
yeah.
like send money to or anything that people have created for formula, for diapers, for wipes, because not just babies use the wipes, right? Like wipes can be, I remember being in the military and we did baby wipe baths. It was just a quick like, cleaning, wiping all the stuff off and moving on, just to kind of feel a little refreshed. So, those kinds of things are important. A little water, right? Like, because you have to have purified water to make formula if it's the powdered formula. So there's so
Mm-hmm.
much that these families, these women and kids and fathers are needing just to kind of survive right now.
Right. And I think that's what's been really sad about this is that not only are the fires currently not contained, but also like it's sad but also good that there's so much community and mutual aid, but it's sad how much community and mutual aid is needed because the government is not stepping in or is not bringing in funds. I mean, I know that for masks, especially, I know that firefighters had to go and ask people who are disabled if they could donate masks
Wow.
because they didn't have masks.
I didn't
They
hear
didn't
about
have
that.
they didn't have N95s because I mean, a lot of people are like COVID was 5 years ago. COVID doesn't exist. Like there's so many different things, but a lot of people don't understand how much COVID has affected people who have disabilities. And we always keep masks. I mean, I have masks everywhere because I'm personally immunocompromised. And so they had to go and ask. And that should not be their responsibility.
No,
That is
especially
the
for,
government's responsibility.
it is, especially for those first responders. I mean, you think like even citizens of California, of the surrounding areas, seeing the smoke, breathing in that smoke. I remember my family was in New York when the fires were happening in Canada. They were seeing the smoke and they were having the effects of it and seeing the debris. And that's thousands of miles away. So those not directly impacted by the fires in California are still breathing in that debris, the pollutants and that. I mean, has got to be messing with their lungs, has to be messing with their health to a certain degree too.
Yeah, and then if you have asthma or any type of illness that involves lung or like lung disease or anything, even heart, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And that's why like I've always been such an advocate for masks in general. That's why like here in Massachusetts I was very upset when they rolled back not having medical staff wear masks
Hmm.
in hospitals. In my opinion, I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
I
No.
understand that you may not agree with wearing masks and that is your own personal decision, which is whatever. But that's where I think America has really lost itself. You have to think of others.
Yeah. What? Do we? Yeah. No.
You have to think of others. I mean, and that's why, like, by showing wearing masks, how to wear them properly, wearing masks on your chin, that's not wearing them properly. Let me just emphasize that. Also, wearing surgical masks right now in California during the California fires, those are not the proper masks to wear right now. You have to wear
Yeah.
N95s. You have to wear the proper mask because if you think that wearing a surgical mask is going to protect you, it's not.
No.
It's not.
And if, you're an average citizen, maybe that's all they have because, the people that are directly fighting the fires need the N95. So if that's all that you have, please just
Double
wear
ma-
them. Yeah.
double
Yeah.
mask,
Yeah.
triple
Do,
mask.
yeah. Do what you can so you're not breathing in all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure like there has to be something on TikTok on how to create good masks if you don't have N95s or something like that. But yeah, like or Red Note as now
Red
is
Note,
like the
the
new thing.
lemonade.
Yeah, like there's so many places, but like please, if you like Mariah said, if you are not able to find or have a mask, just double, triple mask because your health is affected, and that's why like community is so important, and that's
Mhm.
why like it broke my heart when I heard those statements because if that's what they're saying about hands down the worst fire in LA history, I just can't imagine what they're thinking about for women.
I don't even want to go into that. But, that's what we're here for is, again, you're seeing these policies. And I was talking with you last night, and I can't remember the state, but I know a politician is trying to limit taxes for people with children if they're in a married straight relationship. And the children had to come after that relationship. That marriage was finalized.
So what you're saying is like they have to have been married
Yeah.
before the children were born.
Yes.
And if they were not married before the children were born, then you have to pay more taxes?
You won't get as much taxes back. It's not as high as a tax break.
0 cents.
Yeah. Well, it's that whole true biblical definition of a marriage is between a wife or a man and a woman. And once you're married, then you have sex, right? That's the true definition of marriage and the right way to do it. Which, if that's what you believe in, sure.
I just think that's ridiculous. I
Yes.
think that like people like that shouldn't have anything to do with it. Like that's stupid. I know a lot of people aren't getting married anymore because of these like documents. I know, like, for example, a lot of people aren't tracking their periods anymore because they don't want the government to know this information. I mean, things that we never thought was possible is happening. I think personally, tracking your period, if you are able to have one, is vital. It's so vital.
Personally, I can't track my cycle because it's never been regular because of my PCOS. Um,
Mhm.
and then because I've had kids and been breastfeeding, I mean, I still don't have a cycle. But even if I did, I don't know if I would because, yeah, all of that stuff is traceable, and that freaks me out with
Mhm.
the way that our government's going. So I can see both sides. It's important to check it because pregnancy, because hormonal changes, because of all of that. Um, However, I can also see the other side of it's scary or it's not possible.
Yeah. No, exactly. And like, I have endometriosis. I have not had a period since I was 16 because my periods were horrendous, like
Hmm.
horrendous. And I know that we are gonna do a whole like episode on periods, but periods are just awful through and through in my personal opinion. Um And now that I don't have my period, there is a specific, like, it's not even a setting. It's like a function of the Aura ring. It's like where you can track your period or like it shows you when your cycle's coming.
Okay.
I can't use that, but like there's no way to turn that off. And so I feel like in these kind of situations, I feel like that should be an option, not only because of the government, but for people like me or people like you who at this time in their lives, they are not having their period for whatever reason. I mean, yeah, documenting you're breastfeeding, you just had kids. Me, I haven't had my period
Hmm.
in who knows how long. Like, I think that having that option should be important.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. And, like you said, we'll talk more about that, more about all of that stuff and how it does impact us and what we're seeing with that as well. But I think as women, we do need to have more of a say in what's being said,
Mhm.
how we're tracking our cycles. And again, it's not just for pregnancy purposes. It's not just for having baby purposes. It's for mental health. It's for physical health. Those are the primary ones. We have to take care of ourselves.
Right, exactly. And honestly, when you think of tracking your cycle, like that's all I see is for ovulation. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a commercial that says, you know what, you should track your period because it's important to explain to your doctor why you're gaining weight, or why am I losing hair, or
Mhm.
why possibly during this time I can't stop crying, or I can't stop being a bitch. Like I can't control my emotions.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm just mean.
exactly. And it goes back to the men saying, "Are you on your period?" No, I just have emotions. That's fine. But your period does impact your emotions
Significantly.
significantly. There's PMDD, so premenstrual dysphoric disorder, where you're suicidal, where your emotions are so much worse than PMS kind of situation. It's important to
Yes.
be tracking this.
Right. And it sucks that it's taken away almost. I mean, if you choose to track, good for you. Like that's your choice. But it just really sucks that the government's just becoming way too involved. Like one of my favorite, quote unquote, favorite quotes since Roe was overturned was, if I wanted to sleep with a senator, I would have,
Yeah,
or something along those lines. And it's true, like, get out of my vagina.
exactly. Exactly. Especially with I mean, you look at the Senate, you look at politicians. I mean, majority of them are old white men.
One of them, oh my gosh, I don't know who it was. He literally looked like he was dying. Like he was so pale and had rosy cheeks, and he was really talking like this. And I was during like one of the congressional hearings, and I was just like, my
Yes.
God,
So if I wanted a sugar daddy,
not picking that.
maybe. I mean, maybe, especially if they're about to be on their deathbed.
Rather pick like someone from the Playboy Bunny Mansion than them.
Exactly, exactly. Like that's not the type of sugar daddy I would like. Thank you, babe. Stay away from my baby.
Yeah, no, thank you.
No,
I don't
sugar
know. I
grandpa.
mean, more like great grandpa. These people are vile,
They
absolutely
are.
vile. They
They are.
literally are. I truly believe there needs to be a not max. What is it? Age limit. There needs to be an age limit. Like, you know how you have to be 35 to be able to run for president?
Hmm.
Okay, well, then you have to be 70 to not be in Congress, in the Senate, and to be president.
And, as a veteran point of view, if you're going to be the commander in chief, please have a military background so that you know how it works. Just my opinion.
Yeah.
Throwing my two
No,
cents
I
out there.
no, I agree. But I also agree if you have multiple NDAs that you refuse to talk about, almost everyone says that they had to carry you out drunk from work events. Maybe you shouldn't be the defense secretary. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
sounds
know.
like a good sign.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that like if you have 7 children with 3 different women and forgot to name one of your children during the introductions,
Yeah, and it's not
like
like one of those forgets, like, "Hey, you, what's your name?" kind of situation, because I know I get my girls' names confused sometimes, but it wasn't like that by any
oh,
means. No,
not at
no.
all. Yeah. And him saying, I've made some bad mistakes, but I have Jesus Christ. And I was just like, come on.
And the
So
fact that he said he was doing what, 45 push-ups 5 times a day? Like, sir,
I didn't understand that. Like, why does that matter?
he was talking, going back to women shouldn't be in the military or in combat zones. It goes back to the physically fit aspect of it. Like, can you pull your wingman or your fellow soldier, Marine, seaman out, sailor
Okay.
being physically fit, being fit for service.
Okay. But like he's
But
not carrying anyone out.
no,
He's
and it's
pressing buttons and
exactly.
he's not even pressing buttons.
And he doesn't even look like he does that many. Like, don't be bragging about that. And please tell me, I mean, I know you don't know much about guns, but if
No.
I said to you, what size of a bullet does an M9 hold?
Uh-huh.
Would you know what size?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
It's in the name. It's an M9. Like, that's an easy giveaway. It's a 9mm.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, well, I don't know. I told you I know nothing about guns.
Fair enough. But, like, he didn't have to study that hard for that test that they gave him.
That wasn't even a test. That was just ridiculous. One thing I thought, if you have not seen Elizabeth Warren, and Tammy Duckworth, it's not even an interview. It was just them eviscerating him. Please watch it. Please watch it, because now Elizabeth Warren did not, to my knowledge, I don't think she is a veteran, but I know Tammy Duckworth is. If you don't know, she is incredibly brave. She is the senator that lost both of her limbs in combat, emphasis combat, and she just was incredible.
She was.
But
more to talk about with this upcoming politician, political season, inauguration, doomsday, whatever you want to call it. What about, so we've talked a lot about like our Thorn. We've talked a lot about our fears.
Yeah.
What was your rose of the week, your flower? Any glimmer of happiness?
I got to sleep.
Preach.
I have not been sleeping. I personally have not been able to sleep. My anxiety is through the roof. So I personally have not been able to sleep well, and it's been affecting my health. And if people say like sleep doesn't affect your health, or oh, you only need X amount of sleep. Did you know women need more sleep than men? Like women need 9 hours of sleep.
Yeah, and
right.
that's
How many hours did you get?
Not enough. Not enough between my own anxieties, between 2 kids. Not enough. But, you know, I can't remember the last time I had a good night's sleep, just even before the kids.
Not even 9 hours. So that's the
God, no.
thing. Sleep is also impacts women's health as well. And it's so significant, and why having a regulated sleep schedule is so vital, but it's also extremely, extremely hard.
That's exciting.
I got sleep.
You got
what
some
is your rose?
My rose is my girls, even though they are exhausting and have a terrible 2 and a teething baby. Their relationship has grown so much. And I think you were on FaceTime with us last night, where the 2-year-old was just, they were cracking each other up, making each other laugh. And like those moments make it all worth it.
Yeah. It was beautiful. It was so cute. Like they weren't even talking. And I was telling Mariah, I was like, this is where the telepathy starts. The sibling telepathy starts right now.
I even think on our Christmas card we sent out like how anxious I am for the plans that they are going to come up with as they get older to torment me and to torment they're going to be daddy's girls. They already are daddy's girls to torment me.
Say, you.
It's going to be to torment me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they were plotting how the older one could sneak out the little one out of her crib. That was what I was thinking they were plotting.
Yeah, and maybe that's why they woke up at 5 o'clock this morning. That's what we were talking about. Good job crying and needing a change in your diaper so that we can all get up and convince mom to take us out for donuts.
Hey, it worked.
They won.
Yeah, they won 100%. It was a beautiful moment, and I can imagine like teething. I don't think people talk enough about teething.
And it's so different.
So different.
My 2-year-old, like she needed time. She needed stuff here and there occasionally. This 8-month-old. I took her to the urgent care the other week because she had a fever of like 102. And nope, it was teething. I didn't even
Excuse
know
me?
that was a thing. Like, I knew
Oh,
pain, I knew there was congestion, earaches, I knew all of this. But 102 fever,
but she was fine
and she
the
was fine.
entire day. And then all of a sudden it popped up.
Yeah. Don't you love it when, I mean, you don't know. Getting the call from the daycare, you need to come pick up your kid for a fever. Okay, let me also pick up Lysol and Lysol wipes and cold medicine and zinc and all of the stuff because kids are gross.
But
And
then
they
finding
bring,
out that it wasn't even a
yeah,
cold.
yeah, that it was nothing. Kids are gross. They bring home stuff. I'm so glad they're building their immunity. But it was just teething.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it was just teething.
Yeah,
But yeah,
no, I agree. It was wild when you said it was just teething. And I was like, I mean, I know that it's bad because they're literally growing bones out of their face, but I didn't know that it was going to be this bad.
no. And after, the 2-year-old's experience, I didn't think it was going to be that bad.
Joke's on you.
Joke's on me.
Joke's on
Joke's on me. And I'm over here thinking, all right, when are we going to have that third one? No, joke's on me.
Yeah, the third one, we'll wait a little bit.
We'll wait a little. Let's get
Yeah.
one of the ones out of daycare first.
And out of their teething phase.
Yes. And get some of my glow, some of my pink back after breastfeeding for, it's going on 2.5 years straight.
Yeah, when women say that, like, I've been pregnant for 3 years straight, or like, and I'm like, I didn't connect that.
Mm-hmm.
That's very, very true. Yeah, that was really sweet. That was really
It
sweet.
was sweet.
I think that wraps up the episode. We talked a lot about like, our goal is to have one topic at a time. But as you can see, we bop around like we do. We do. Like, we can't help it. It's our nature, especially as therapists. Because once you hear something, you grab onto that, and then there you go.
It's cycled.
It cycles. But our goal is to have one topic at a time.
And
But we started with stuff.
We started with stuff. We're opening up the gates. We are preparing ourselves and everybody else for what we would like this to look like and where we're going from here. Preparing for what comes after Monday. And I think, one subject does bring up other subjects, but we're hoping to stay on one at a time. That is our ultimate goal.
Yeah, so we'll work on that. If we don't, it's our podcast. I mean, what can we do?
Exactly.
Okay. We can only do so much.
I'm unmedicated ADHD, so if my brain hops around, it hops around. That's what happens.
Yeah. What can we do? But if you like the previous episode, please rate it on Spotify. If you like this episode, rate it as well. I don't know if you can rate. I don't think you can rate like per episode. I think you can just rate like the podcast as a whole. So we'll understand if you need a few to figure out how you feel about us. But if you like us, we'd really appreciate a rating and a comment.
Yes.
That would be really nice.
And follow us on our Instagram is up and running. We were going to do a TikTok, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I have it, but I hear mixed things. Like, are they going to shut it down? Are they not on Saturday? I don't know.
So we'll see what happens with it. Yeah.
Yep. I have Twitter set up. Haven't really posted on our Blue Sky, but I do have it, and I will get that up and running. We do have a YouTube channel, so that will also have the video. Spotify, you can watch our video, like if you like our face. I do a lot of facial expressions. Mariah does a lot of facial expressions.
Yes.
So if you enjoy that,
please don't. Just listen. You don't need to see our faces.
Stop. I think I ran down the list. I'm not even sure. I will also put in the description as much information as I can find regarding donations to California and anyone who is impacted by the California fires, in particular, people with disabilities regarding masks, if medications, their canes, their wheelchairs, anything like that, women and parents in general, formula, clothes, toys, like Maura said, purified water also. So I will do my best to put as much information in the description as possible if you were interested. So yeah.
Yeah, that is the podcast 2,
Oh my gosh, it's episode 2.
episode 2. Come on in.
Well, I hope you all have a wonderful day, night, afternoon, whenever you are listening and watching this. And we will see you next week.
Sounds good. See you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.